Okay, hello everybody. We are group number 8. Today we are going to discuss chapter 6, understanding the work in our value stream. In the last presentation, we learned that we need to identify a value stream to which we want to apply DevOps principles and patterns. In this chapter, we're going to discuss exactly how to identify the teams that support our value stream and basically what work is performed and by whom and what steps we can do to improve our flow. So the first step is identify the team supporting our value stream. So basically, in value streams of any complexity, no one person knows all the work that must be performed in order to create value for the customer. In most cases, the required work must be performed by different teams, and these teams are separately inside the organization or geographically. And after we identify these teams, we need to identify what they do and what they are responsible for. And basically, there's main kinds of teams. So the first one is the product owner. So it's the internal voice of the business that defines the next set of functionality in the service. There's a develop team. That's the team responsible for developing applications functionality in the service. A QA that's responsible for the team that's ensure that the feedback loops exist. The next one's operations. So it's the team that's responsible for maintaining the production. The InfoSec is responsible for security systems. Release managers that's responsible for coordinating the production, deployment, and release process. And the last one is the technology executives or value stream manager. Basically is someone who is responsible for ensuring that the value stream meets or exceeds the customer requirements for the overall value stream. Once we identify our value stream members, we need to map their works. So basically, we need to document all the different process inside our companies and which team is responsible for each one. And basically, our first pass of documenting is documenting high-level process blocks inside our work. This will give us a current state of the company. So basically, here's an example of that. So once you identified the steps of the process, you need to identify how much time each one takes, and the completion versus accuracy of each process. So this will help you understand what process takes more time to be accomplished, and this will help you to focus on this process. And once you created this, you can create a future value stream map which serves as a target condition to achieve by some date. And that leads to the next topic, that is creating a dedicated transformation team.
Thanks, Rafael. Yeah, creating a dedicated transformation team is super important because that team is going to disrupt some of the daily operations. I've heard it described like changing your business and trying to make these changes is like trying to change the tire on your car while you're driving down the interstate at 60 miles an hour. And that internal bureaucracy that's in charge of daily operations is very resilient and very focused on making sure that car keeps driving down the road, which is important. However, when you need to have change, you've got to be able to have this group that can affect change and not keep the status quo, right? Change it up. So that's why it's really important to have a dedicated team, because they really need to be able to operate like outside the rest of the organization and freed from many of the rules and policies that apply to the rest of the organization, because they're trying to create new ways of thinking. The old rules are part of institutional memory, and they need to create new institutional memory. So they need to not be bound by the current constraints. And that's why I like this quote by Edison: "There are no rules here. We're trying to accomplish something." But that's not to say they can do whatever they want. They need clearly defined goals that are measurable and produce a system level result. An example would be to reduce deployment lead time by like 50%. In order to do this, though, there's some best practices for the team that will help make them successful. So team members should be solely allocated to the team. They should not have responsibilities on other teams. They should be generalists and have a wide variety of skills. They should also be well respected, have long-standing mutually respectful relationships within the organization. They should also be separated. Having their own physical space may help create some isolation from the rest of the organization and maximize communication. And this separation is important because it creates room for experimentation, and it also protects the rest of the organization from those potential disruptions. Also, it's really important that everyone is agreed on a shared goal. This goal should be clearly defined and have a deadline between 6 months to 2 years. It should require considerable effort, but it still should be achievable. It also should create obvious value for the organization and the customers. It should have a well-known time frame and deadline. The goal and time frame should be agreed upon by executives, and it should be well known throughout the organization. There should be a limited number of change initiatives happening at the same time as well. There should just be a few. And the team should deliver on the change in incremental and iterative results on a regular cadence of 2 to 4 weeks, similar to a development team in how they work.
All right, perfect. So the first thing I'm going to be talking about is keep our improvement planning horizons short. In DevOps, typically when we have a transformation project or any project of that matter, we need to keep our planned horizons sprints short. This will enable us to generate measurable improvements as well as actionable data. And typically we want to measure that in weeks, worst case scenario months, but just the shorter time frame. The reason we want to do this is for flexibility and the ability to prioritize and replan quickly, decrease the delay between work expended and improvements. This just strengthens our feedback loop, makes it more likely to reinforce desired behaviors. When improvement initiatives are successful, it encourages more investment. Faster learning generated from the first iteration, meaning faster integration of our learning into the next iteration. Reduction in activation energy to get improvements, quicker realization of those improvements that make meaningful differences in our daily work, and we generate less of a risk in our project that our project is killed before we can get any kind of demonstrable outcome. So the next thing I want to be talking about is reserve cycles for non-functional requirements and reducing technical debt. And the reason we want to do that is a common problem to any process improvement effort is how we properly prioritize things. This is especially true in technology organizations because of technical debt. We actively manage this technical debt by ensuring that we invest at least 20% of all development and operation cycles on refactoring, investing in automation work so we don't actually have to do that work, and non-functional requirements such as maintainability, manageability, scalability, reliability, testability, deployability, and just general security. So in conclusion, what we talked about this chapter is we identified all the teams supporting our value stream and captured in a value stream map on what work is required in order to deliver value to the customer. The value stream map provides the bias for understanding our current state, including our lead time and CA metrics for problematic areas, informs us how we set a future state of the system. This enables dedicated transformation teams to rapidly iterate and experiment to improve their performance. We also make sure to allocate a sufficient amount of time for improvements, fixing known problems and issues, including our non-functional requirements as well. And that is everything for this week. Thank you for viewing.